Hey everyone, welcome back to Creek Farmhouse. I'm Christy.
I'm Rob.
And welcome to season 2 of our YouTube channel. So let's talk about why season 2 has happened so far away from season 1. A lot of you guys know that we started our channel back in spring of 2020.
And something happened between spring of 2020 and now.
Maybe it happened for a lot of you as well. And so it definitely caused things to change for our life and took us in another direction, including some health challenges for me that have been ongoing. But the silver lining in all of this is that it really, going through the experience of the pandemic helped us to recenter our life and to think about what we wanted for ourselves and our future.
And I think for a lot of people, it just gave us, like a lot of people, a chance to kind of really focus on, how amazing life can be and what a miracle is, and then how are we actually spending that time. So that's kind of what we have done in the last few years, just kind of just process where we're heading.
Yeah, we've definitely spent a lot of time having conversations and figuring out what we wanted for our future and how we wanted to spend our time. And so this video is a little bit different because we're going to be telling you what came out of some of those conversations and where we're going next, because for the last couple years we've been doing some things behind the scenes that we haven't talked a lot about, although some of you may have gleaned an idea from some of our posts, and certainly local friends are aware. But we've been sort of quietly trying something out to see if it was something that we enjoyed and something that we wanted to keep doing. So we started blogging about our home in 2018, so it's been about almost 5.5 years. And the focus at the time that we started was certainly on the interior of our home, because that's where we spend the most of our time, and there were a lot of projects.
When you move into somewhere new, you a lot of times want to make the home yourself, yours, and so that's what we were trying to do, and had a vision for what we wanted the inside to look like.
And we still have a lot of projects, so never fear on that. We have a lot more to share with you still on that front. But the last couple of years, we've really found ourselves drawn to the exterior, and we're blessed to have a little bit of acreage, and we were thinking about what we wanted to do with that and how we wanted to spend our time was really important to us. So in our previous home, before we moved to this house, we had a pretty good sized home garden, a hobby garden. I loved to grow vegetables, and it was important to me to sort of contribute to our family, and then it was also created some community because neighbors also did the same thing, and so we would kind of share what we were doing. Each of us had sort of different abilities based on the light conditions in our yards and stuff like that, and so we were able to kind of pool our resources and grow different things, which was really fun, and I enjoyed it. And when we purchased this home, or when we were even looking to purchase a new home, we wanted acreage because we knew that that hobby was important to me. I enjoyed the activity, and so how could we find something where we could really expand on that idea.
And just the ability to grow your own food is just kind of cool. I mean, not only does the food taste better than when you just buy it from the store, but just the ability to grow it, to me, is just kind of like a fascinating, kind of a cool endeavor. And so for me, it was just kind of a fun thing to kind of get into.
And for me, one of the things that was important was the idea of being less dependent, and I think the pandemic really brought that to light for us, being less dependent on the supply chain, so being able to produce more of our own food and to preserve food we would have for the future as well. Also the food is more natural, fresh, certainly tastes better. I mean, that's always been our experience with growing our own food, is that it tastes far and away better than what you can get at the store. And so having more of an ability to do that was really important to us. But also having a way to be able to sustain our lifestyle. Certainly we aren't, there's a spectrum of what that looks like. Some people are completely off the grid, and some people are like, super preppers, and they're able to fully provide for their families. We're not looking to do that. And kudos to those who can do that, because it takes a tremendous amount of skill and time and investment. But we wanted to be able to at least have an impact on, our consumer behaviors, I guess, and how we eat and those sorts of things.
So what we were trying to do was be able to provide maybe a little more of our needs, having a little more, less relying on the outside sources, and us being able to just provide a little bit more for what we eat and what we need. So that was kind of our goal originally.
And the way we started with that was looking at where we spent most of our produce budget, and then what could we grow ourselves to reduce how much we spent at the grocery store. And we just started working with those crops a little bit at a time and being able to preserve food for ourselves. Now, I thought that it might be a good idea if we could grow more than what we needed even to preserve, so that we could either sell or trade some of what we were growing for other things that we weren't able to grow, or that we just can't grow where we live, to reduce, again, to use the land that we have to provide for our family in greater ways, was my thought. I kind of dropped that on Rob's lap at some point along the way. And we started to have a conversation about what that would look like and what we might be able to do with the acreage that we have. And at first, I thought that a great crop that I would enjoy growing, just because I'm passionate about it and I liked it, was specialty pumpkins. So we bought books, we did research, we discovered that was not going to be a profitable venture for us based on the amount of land that we have and how much room it takes to grow pumpkins. It really wasn't going to be the best use of our space.
So we went back to the drawing board.
Yes. And we did a bunch more research. We looked at the acreage that we have. So just to give you guys an idea, our home sits on just a little under 2 acres. And about half of that is wooded. And so that means it's shaded. And that prohibits what we can really grow in that space. And when we started to look at the available room that we had left and profitability per acre and different crops, the research led to flowers. And specifically dahlias. And we are still growing food and vegetables for our family and for preserving for our own use. But when we looked at a potentially profitable revenue generating crop, it came down to specialty cut flowers, and for us that means primarily dahlias. So that was a big transition, because for so long I have grown food. I've always grown flowers too for enjoyment, but I never really imagined the idea of farming flowers. That just hadn't entered my mind as a thing to do. And something you guys might not know, or you might if you've been around for a while, you could have gleaned this, that I'm kind of analytical, and I tend to be, practical about the things that we do. We don't have like good towels and good china. Everything that we have because we use it. And I do think that things can be pretty and practical, and I've certainly blogged a lot about that. But I always go from practical first, and food I think is pretty and practical, and so that's always been my focus. It seemed to make the most sense to me. So this is a transition that we started a couple of years ago to see if it was something that we enjoyed, to just dip our toe in the water and see if we even could physically do it on our land. Did we like it? Could our bodies handle the work?
And I think through all the work we were doing and all the experimenting we were doing, I think what we were coming to the conclusion is, when you think about flowers, here's something I think really important. Flowers bring a lot of positive energy, vibes, just positive things to people's lives. The last few years have been, tumultuous. What's the word I'm looking for?
Tumultuous.
Yes, have been. The past few years have been chaotic for sure. And the thing about flowers is, people get flowers because they love someone. They want to show that love. It's a romantic gesture. They are wanting to wish someone well because they're not feeling well. Because someone's has gone through a loss. There's flowers are given as kind of part of our emotional selves to someone else a lot of times, or we bring them into our lives because the beauty, the fragrances. There is this like wonderful kind of aspect about flowers
through every milestone of our
Yep.
lives too,
Yep.
from a baby being born to special events, birthdays, just all these different sort of celebratory moments of our lives, and moments of grief and care and honor and respect for others.
And so I think through all of that, we're like, wow, being part of something like that right now not only would uplift us, but we felt like also give to our community and beyond.
Right.
So that's kind of what we've been processing over the last couple of years as we were, working with, can we do this? How does this feel? Look, what is it going to be like?
And as we were growing them, I think one thing that really surprised me is the sort of soul connection, the spiritual connection that I had with growing the flowers was something that I didn't anticipate at all. And they really, the flowers started to feel like members of our family in many ways, because we grow them, from the time that we, put the seeds on our propagation rack and nurture those little seedlings, to getting them into a place where we can transplant them outdoors, and then seeing them all the way through to harvest. There's something very emotional about that whole process. I think that's true with farming in general, but there's something about flowers, and I think it's that beauty and that connection that we all have with them as being such a significant part of our lives in so many ways. I mean, think about, like, I know when we planned our wedding, we spent like hours with our florist over something that at the time I just said, I don't know, I just want them to be like shades of white and ivory, and it doesn't really matter to me what the flower itself is. And then we kind of went through like symbolism and the structure of flowers, and she was teaching us so many things that I hadn't that hadn't even been important in my decision. And so now when we think about the flowers that we used for our wedding, we forever are tied to that moment. That special moment of our lives means something every time we see those particular blooms. So one thing that we also is realizing, like Rob said, is that this has been a difficult several years for a lot of us, and something that if you've been with us for a while you might know, but something that we were sort of connecting to on this was back to our professional experience. So Rob has a master's degree in counseling, and I have a PhD in human development that I also coincidentally finished in the very beginning. Well, I finished in 2019, but I graduated at the very beginning of 2020, about 6 weeks before we got sick. So human development, what that is in the post-war era, there was this idea that we measured individuals' well-being by gross domestic product, GDP. And people were starting to see that GDP wasn't really a great measure for how people were doing in terms of well-being. And I think all of you would probably agree with that just because GDP increases doesn't necessarily mean that our lives have gotten better, or that we're feeling better about our lives. And so this study of human development came about. And so in school, my grad school program, there were people from like all different industries, education and clinical psychologists and marketing, and people, with tons of different backgrounds who care about this subject. Personally, I focused on psychosocial development and people's experiences with pursuing meaningfulness in their lives and being fulfilled. And the more we talked about that, the more we started to see that we were actually living my research study firsthand, and we have been over the last couple of years. And we thought, why not just be our own experiment, basically, and document that process with all of you.
So, I spent 2.5 decades in a career that I've loved. Um, Something I've noticed as time was going on was that um, it wasn't quite what it used to be for me, and I think I started to kind of feel like I was waking up and going to work, but not really, embracing it with the passion that I used to. And I was starting to kind of, you start to live for weekends, live for your time off. And while I do appreciate, what I had, I also realized that, our life is our time in our life is short and precious, and not to be actively trying to feed our soul, if possible, even with our career, whatever we choose and are able to do. It started to feel like I was kind of just waiting for time to go by instead of really living fully in the moment. And then that kind of started to scare me. And I think, of course, again, with the pandemic, you start to re-examine kind of how you're spending that time you do get.
Yeah.
So with that, and with what she was researching and spent years of her life actually, diving into, we were like, well, wait a minute. So this is a chance to actually live what she was researching.
Right.
It was a chance to really dive in deep, at which taking that courageous step, and kind of following your passion, even though it's out of your comfort zone, even though it's scary, but it has that potential to be, fulfilling and feeding your soul.
Yeah. And so I spent 6 years researching this topic and having, the absolute privilege to interview people who have done some incredible things along the way. And, and certainly I think a lot of people probably already are like nodding their heads that this idea resonates with them. I mean, the statistics that exist, workplace statistics that are out there show that people are largely dissatisfied and unfulfilled by what they're doing and would rather be doing something else, and they may not know what that is. And so people kind of there's a whole range of experiences there, from people who I know the way that I used to be when I worked in the corporate world. It was that I would cry in my car on the way to work, not because I didn't like people, or didn't like what maybe I was doing, but I knew that I was supposed to be doing something else. I wasn't totally clear on what that was, but I knew it wasn't what I was spending my days doing. I knew that sitting in a cubicle under fluorescent lighting, and caring about what color the cell is on the spreadsheet, and there are people who are super passionate about that, so no disrespect if you're one of those people. I mean, I actually love Excel, the analytical part of me, okay, but that's tangent. My point is that I knew that was not why I was put on earth, and I wanted to do something else. And so there's people who totally get that experience and have cried in their car or sat in their car at lunch and not wanted to go back inside, and then there's people who certainly do work because it affords them the lifestyle that they desire. And yeah, if they won the lottery, they might not be doing that, but they're also pragmatic about the fact that this is what they're doing right now. And then there's people who are super passionate about their jobs, and that's fantastic, and that's, I think, where all of us want to be. It's just that we're not all there. So when we saw the opportunity to say, we have the research. I mean, literally, I've done the study. I've learned from people how this works, and we are going through it firsthand. Especially for Rob at this point. Why not just jump in and show that process?
And actually live the experiment firsthand, and really understand the steps and the processes firsthand. Step by step.
So the important part of that is that we're pretty clear on the what. We know that we would like to have this all be our lifestyle, this be our career, and growing and making these beautiful flowers, specifically the dahlias, although we are growing a lot of other things too. That's the what for us. The how is less clear, and figuring out how we make that into something that's full-time and sustainable and can work for our family is that's the process. That's what we want to be able to show you guys, that is the thing that we're going to be figuring out. We do not have that answer. We will be uncovering that answer as we go and documenting the whole process in front of you so that you can see what that's like. And it's going to be probably difficult and messy at times, and there's going to be some really great things too, and it'll be a learning experience for sure.
But we also figured that if you wait until you knew exactly what the how is, it may never happen.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of things I have put off in my life just because I wasn't sure exactly about the how. And the way I have accomplished those things that I always wanted to was not necessarily knowing the how, but just going for the what, and then figuring it out. So,
because let's be honest, if we knew how to do it, we would already be doing it, right?
Yes.
So clearly that is the figuring out process that needs to occur. So what we do know in that is that we have a 5-year plan. So we have some sort of fuzzy ideas about where we're going to sort of help us directionally. We are very aware of the fact that acreage expansion has to be part of this journey maybe it doesn't have to. The way that we see it now is that it needs to be part of that journey for us because, again, we only have so much property to work with, and we have been at this now for a little over 2 years, even though we've been keeping it on the down low from you guys. And so we have, not completely, but we're getting close to maxing out what we can do on our current land. And so we either have to sort of restructure what that looks like, and we'll certainly be talking about that more in future videos, or we have to look at how in the world will we come up with more land, which is something to figure out along the way.
And part of the how.
Part of the how.
Yeah.
So what to expect going forward from our channel is certainly, there's no change to what we have been doing. We have a list of projects on the interior of our home that would last us for a very long time. So we're still doing that. I absolutely still enjoy decorating our home, doing crafts, doing recipes, all of that. So there's not a change to the way that I've been writing and blogging and what you guys know. What we're doing is adding in this extra piece to share a part of our life with you guys. And the format is going to definitely change. So that is a little bit uncomfortable for us. The previous videos that we've shared with you guys have been sort of standalone projects, start to finish, which is the same way that we have always written our blog posts too. Each blog post is its own how-to, it's its own story.
Very polished, very produced.
Yeah, very polished.
Yes.
But
so this next chapter is going to be actually unfold in chapters.
Yeah.
It's like this is a story, and here's each chapter. It's going to be a little more messy, not as polished, but we're hoping to be more authentic with it, more real. And honestly, we don't know how the story is going to end at this point. And
we don't totally know how to tell the story this way because this is new for us, so it may be a little bit clunky at first of knowing when to stop and say that's enough for this episode. This is where we are today. So it'll be definitely more like chapters in real time, sharing where we're at, so that you guys see the journey as it unfolds with us. And certainly less hair and makeup and nice outfits, because what we have learned over the last couple of years is that this is dirty business, and we are frequently sweaty and gross and do not look our Sunday best by any means. So you will be getting the very honest version of us in every possible way.
Honest and raw.
Yeah, but we think that that's important too, because that whole idea of Instagram perfection, and that our house always looks the way that you see it in pictures. I mean, we finish projects and take photos because they're beautiful and they can help to inspire you to create something in your home. It doesn't mean that that's how our home looks all the time. I mean, we have messes, we live a real life, and we don't want to give that impression, because I think that only leads people down the path of comparison, and I think that is something that only diminishes our joy, which is kind of what we're saying we want to get away from. We want to increase that. So what's coming next is that for the last couple of years we have filmed some footage of what we've been doing, and so we'll probably package those together into some little like catch-up videos to show you what we've done and give you an idea of how the last couple of years have gone. And so we'll work on that, but we'll also be showing you regularly the process going forward. And what that schedule looks like, I don't know. I mean, we're hopeful at least once a week. We would like to get something out to you, even if, again, we're still figuring out what that looks like in terms of mini chapters of our lives instead of completed projects.
But we're hopeful it'll be exciting, interesting,
Yes.
and again, just kind of doing this experiment. So we don't know how it's going to exactly turn out, but we think it's ultimately we're going to kind of make ourselves vulnerable and just see if kind of where it leads. So.
Yep, so if this is the first introduction you've had to our channel or our blog or anything to do with us, then we hope that you will follow along by liking this video and subscribing to our channel, and then you can also hit the little notification button so that you don't miss when we do post things and share more of this story. And if you've been with us all along, please also like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that you don't miss what's coming up next.
So thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you out there, and have a great week. So then we decided to go with the beets,
No.
bears.
Battlestar Galactica.
That's what I wanted to say when you said. But then we were thinking, beets! We decided to become beet farmers.
And I think like one of our focuses was focuses? I don't know.
One of our focuses. I think it's focuses. The cactus. I think it's focuses. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway. What am I looking at on the camera?